Part 105. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1044. When the fox monster saw that the powerful men of Yahuwah's force did not stop him from escaping, his strong desire to survive suddenly arose. He escaped even faster. But he is fast, no matter how fast he is, can he be faster than Jiayan in the subspace? Impossible. Puff. Space oscillates. Through the twisted land of subspace, Jiayan was able to catch up behind the opponent almost with his eyes closed. He saw that under the shock of space, he appeared behind the opponent's body, and then the strengthened armor almost exploded with combat power. A claw is inserted into the opponent's body. So fast. The fox monster looked at the sharp claws protruding from the front of his chest almost desperately, and then he had no last words. Jiayan's brainwave power suddenly exploded. Under this explosion, the opponent's internal organs were directly destroyed into a pile of minced meat. Although a strong man is powerful, if his internal organs are gone and even his head explodes, he will die. This half-star fox monster who had worked hard in the Yahuwah forces and had put in a lot of middle-level talents ended up dying under the claws of Jiayan's armor. And the big leader he was loyal to didn't even dare to rescue him. After Jiayan finished all this, he turned back and looked at the leader of the Yahuwah force who was faintly approaching the battle circle, smiling slightly. Okay, the first culprit has been executed. I hope your forces will not break your promise. I'm waiting at Tingtian Pavilion. After Jiayan said all this, he looked around at the semi-star level executives of the Nightflower Force, and smiled faintly, with a hint of ridicule in his smile. He seemed to be laughing at such a group of semi-stellar powerhouses who did not dare to face him. A sub-level action. In fact, only Jiayan himself understood that he was not even a junior level at all, but just a venerable person. A venerable, even if he borrowed external power, except for the battle armor, he didn't even use the power of the black hole in this battle. If he told it, it would be absolutely earth-shattering, and no one would believe it. After Jiayan finished taunting the semi-star level creatures, he moved his body again and stepped into the subspace with his armored body. He just left. And in the entire starry sky, there was no sound for a long time after he left. After a long tea time, the creatures watching this happened in a uniform way, and they all exclaimed in amazement. You must know that this is the first time they have really seen it with their own eyes. According to legend, the madman, shit-stirrer, and the most terrifying sub-level, a bunch of names of masters, that is, the performances of MOK. And this performance did not disappoint, in fact far exceeded it. MOK, this lunatic, is just like the rumors. He not only has an artificial black hole that can explode, but also has personal strength that far exceeds his level. No, even compared to the last time it was rumored that he fought against several powerful men invited by the disciples, this time MOK was even more terrifying. His previous battles with medium-talented and half-star creatures were not so easy, and this time, he easily killed an extremely powerful semi-star level being with moderate talents without using many methods. That's right, the fox creature who can serve as a high-ranking member of the Yahuwah force is definitely a powerful semi-star himself, and he is also considered powerful among those with medium talents at the same level. But such a strong man is still not the enemy of Jiayan in that level. Everyone can even see that MOK did not use all his strength at all. Doesn't this mean that his true strength, a mere sub-level creature, can kill half a star with medium talent, just like chopping vegetables and melons? This news is too scary. No matter what the rumors behind him were, Jiayan was already on his way back. This trip was just to confirm his strength after becoming strong again. The result did not disappoint him. At least with the help of the enhanced battle armor, he was already much stronger. When fighting with average mid-level talents and half-stars, he would not suffer at all. It should even be enough to crush ordinary mid-level talents. Half a star. It's a pity that the Yahuwah forces didn't fall out, otherwise they would have been able to test the power of the black hole. With such great results, Jia Yan was actually a little disappointed. Jia Yan was still in the subspace. He had just flown out of the edge of Yahuwah's power, but he felt that in the normal space, a small group of semi-stellar experts were rushing towards the inside of Yahuwah's power like crazy. According to the news on the internet just now, that MOK is in the Yahuwah forces. Let's go there quickly. Our disciples will be destroyed in the hands of this MOK. If we don't take revenge, we are simply in vain. In that team of monsters, the leader was a high-end talented half-star strongman, followed by a medium-endowed half-star powerhouse. There are more than 30 and a half-star experts, with such terrifying strength, even the Yahuwah forces are shocked, at least they dare not confront each other openly. Especially their identity, they are the exiled group of fugitives who have been acting like rats on the streets in the entire Dark Realm recently. Everyone knows that this group of guys are powerful and crazy, and they often destroy small forces. The Nightflower forces might not even want to be provoked. This team came here after seeing the rumors on the internet about Jia Yan coming to the Yahuwah force. Originally, they had gathered such a large team just to go to Tingtian Pavilion to trouble Jia Yan. Now that it happened, they rushed directly to this place. You're actually looking for me? Jia Yan heard the sounds of these monsters in the subspace and was startled. But then his eyes flashed fiercely. I just want to see how powerful these two man-made black holes are. Since you have appeared on your own, let me use you as the first flag sacrifice. Jia Yan finally showed a sneer, and then he did not appear in the subspace, just triggering the two huge black holes that followed him not far away and were controlled by the space stone. And within the Yahuwah force, a group of powerful creatures from the Yahuwah force, as well as the onlookers who had not dispersed, were shocked again at this moment. A group of strong men from the original disciples are rushing to attack our Yahuwah forces? These madmen are as crazy as that MOK. What are they doing to our Yahuwah forces? No, they must be looking for trouble with MOK. You must know that the instigator of the disciples' current fate is MOK. They are a group of lunatics. This is the reason why they are looking for the even crazier MOK. There are people on both sides. Madman, it's just right to fight. But what are these guys doing here now? Don't they understand that MOK has left? Oh no, their coming in will definitely cause trouble. Maybe even our Yahuwah forces will suffer if they fight. Each and every half-star level executive of the Nightflower force was now frightened. The overall strength of their Nightflower creatures here is certainly stronger than that of the exiles from the Disciple Regiment, but it is not much different. If the battlefield is within their Nightflower forces, they will really suffer heavy losses. Forget it, if giving money can eliminate the disaster, we will give you some money. Remember, the first leader of our Nightflower force, that beautiful woman, did not fight because of her good popularity. Even if I have to do things to eliminate misfortunes, so that my Nightflower power can survive to this point, so even if I am embarrassed today, no one is allowed to complain. The leader of the Nightflower force, the rock-like monster, shook his head helplessly, preparing to bleed again. Anyway, he has already been slapped in the face by Jia Yan once, so it makes sense to give money to a group of lunatics in the disciples group. After all, among these group of lunatics, there are still high-level talents of half a star level. Just when the Yahuwah forces here were getting ready to give some more property to those madmen from the fugitive group. In the distant sky, a surging gravitational fluctuation actually affected the starry sky through a distance of millions of kilometers. What's this? All the creatures, including the spectators watching the battle, were extremely shocked. Then someone seemed to think of something. It must be that MOK. Isn't this fluctuation gravity? And it can be transmitted millions of kilometers. It is definitely a black hole. He is the only one in the entire dark field who may have such a terrifying artificial black hole. Go over and take a look. A more terrifying battle actually broke out over there. We saw a lot of good shows today. The onlookers, who were originally very interested because of watching the last battle, now felt the gravitational fluctuations, and all of them were even more excited and overjoyed, and then they all rushed towards the place where the gravitational force exploded. Come on, let's go take a look too. After all, this is a battle that will break out within the territory of my Yahuwah influence. Several senior members of the Yahuwah forces looked at each other, and then the big leader spoke solemnly. Actually, you don't need to read it to know that Mok is seeking death. Yes, if the other party dares to come to trouble Mok, he must have a way to deal with his artificial black hole, otherwise how dare he come? Several senior executives talked secretly, and they all felt that Mok was definitely dead in the battle over there. Because the strength of the opponent's group of strong men is almost the same as that of Yahuwah's full force, and Mok can only have one person at most. Even if he has a black hole as an assistant, what can he do? Even if he self-destructs an artificial black hole, he must be well prepared, and he may not even be able to harm an enemy if he self-destructs. And when this group of high-level Yahuwah forces rushed to the place where the battle broke out one by one, the scene of the battle may have exceeded their imagination. Two huge and extremely dark black objects slowly revealed themselves at the gap that slowly opened in space. A half-star with moderate talent roared loudly when he saw the dark black object. Everyone, be careful. That Mok is here. When he sees us, he doesn't run away, but wants to fight us. He is indeed crazy, but he is crazy, and so are we. He has made us lose all our power, and we are even crazier. That's right, 3 generations of my ancestors all grew up in the disciple core, but he actually caused the disciple core to collapse. I'm going to fight him. No need to fight, it's just a sub-level. We have so many half-stars here, and there is one with a high talent. Killing him is like searching for something. Those with space talent, please show me where Mok is. Yes. More than 30 half-star level creatures stayed together, waiting for the Mok to appear. Thank you to Juyan Book Friends for the 600 starting coin reward. Thank you to Fuhua Jun and Book Friends 201704181745333370 for the 500 starting coin reward, and thank you to Stars X Meteor Shower Book Friends for the reward. Thank you. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1045. Within these two gaps, the terrifying attraction is like the turbulent river water, constantly invading. Moreover, this kind of attraction does not always maintain a state, but suddenly slows down, and then pauses for a whole period of time, making a group of semi-stellar experts flying in the universe unable to stand in a fixed position. No one can guess how this irregular gravity will act at the next moment. If you don't resist, if it suddenly increases its power, you will be sucked around. If you resist, it will suddenly lose gravity, and as a result, your body will fly away in the direction of the force. Let's all stand together and use our control power, otherwise we won't be able to be played by Mok like this. Before Mok showed up, the 30 or so half-star experts were actually confused by the game, and the high-end talented half-star was almost furious. Mok, get out of here. You dared to harm my disciples back then, why don't you dare to show up now? It has actually been a long time since the disciples were destroyed by an artificial black hole in Jiayan. This high-end talented half-star was one of the 2 high-end half-stars in the disciples. If he hadn't been one of the members chasing Jiayan that day and escaped Yujun by chance, otherwise he might have been bombarded by the man-made black hole in the disciples' headquarters star. Now he is extremely angry. He has had a very bad life in the past 2 years. A high-level talent with a half-star level should have been popular in the Dark Realm. However, after the abandoned mission was destroyed, he was attacked by the coalition forces. Unwilling to surrender or join other forces, he and his group of subordinates suffered a lot in the Dark Realm. For all this, he placed the responsibility on Jia Yan. Of course, it was Jia Yan's fault in the first place. But if they hadn't been chasing Jia Yan back then, they wouldn't have fallen to this point. You want me to come out? Yes. When he finished speaking, a clear voice sounded. Then somewhere in the starry sky, a twisted space appeared, and the metal monster's body slowly came out of the distortion. Moke. Seeing this figure, the highly talented semi-star creature almost gritted his teeth and looked at Jia Yan as if he wanted to tear him apart. But unlike him, the surrounding half-stars with space talents looked at each other one by one, and then the expressions of several creatures became slightly solemn. As beings with space talents, although some of them cannot enter the subspace, they can completely feel the fluctuations of the subspace. But even if this group of space-talented semi-stars were to investigate, the moment Jia Yan appeared before, they couldn't feel how Jia Yan got to that area. In other words, if Jia Yan enters the subspace, this team will have no way to detect his whereabouts and will only search here like headless flies. Of course, they didn't think that Jia Yan's advantage would pose much of a threat to them, because no matter what depth Jia Yan reached in the subspace, as long as he wanted to show up and attack, it would cause a shock in the space. Even strong creatures can feel it before he appears. All the former members of the Disciple Corps, if you don't plan how to rebuild the Disciple Corps, why do you want to cause trouble for me? Jia Yan controls the metal armor, and the power of the cells on his body is slightly opened. With the addition of several kinds of energy, his armored body almost reveals a level of peak strength. But even if it is the second level, in this situation, it should be soy sauce. Facing a high-level talented half-star, leading more than 30 mid-level half-star talents, such a luxurious lineup, even the most powerful force in this dark realm, must concentrate on dealing with it, not to mention the whole situation. The army faced them, at least they were extremely cautious, and they had to use most of their strength to defeat them. But with such a luxurious lineup, they were facing only a single person at this moment. In fact, this single person was just a sub-level creature that was a whole level behind any of them. But under such circumstances, he did not retreat from the level at that time, and the 30.5-star level did not underestimate the other party in the slightest. The picture was so inconsistent that almost all the creatures I saw might have made me think I was dreaming. It's not that the sub-levels of this era are too powerful, but that the current creatures in this sub-level are too terrifying. All this can only show how notorious Jia Yan's current pseudonym is MOK in the Dark Realm. This is what the high-ranking officials of the Nightflower Force and the people from the outside world who came over saw the scene as soon as they arrived. I'm dizzy, what kind of scene is this? In the distance, they saw Jia Yan's incarnation, MOK, and a group of 30-odd exiled disciples at half-a-star level, looking at each other from afar, thousands of kilometers apart. Moke is a mere sub-level, he is so awesome, he is face-to-face with a group of half-stars, and he is not the least bit timid. Okay, MOK, just understand the grievances between us. Now there is you without us, and with us there is no you. Today's battle must be carried out, otherwise we will attack your Tingtian pavilion. The leader of the highly gifted half-star disciple group said sternly to Jia Yanning. Hearing what he said, all the surrounding creatures were whispering for a while. A high-level talent with a half-star level actually threatens a sub-level talent like this. It simply has no dignity for a strong person. I think that MOK is definitely giving in. Anyway, he has just established Tingtian Pavilion not long ago. His spatial talent is unparalleled. Using his spatial talent, he will leave directly now without even looking back at Tingtian Pavilion. This group of people even half a star couldn't catch him. That's right, those guys from the Disciple Regiment were really crazy, thinking that MOK would agree to this kind of thing. Even if he lost one Tingtianjia, today he could win in the hands of more than 30.5 stars. Escape and tell him about it will be big news for him again. That's not right. Look, there seem to be two black holes there. Damn it, if he explodes another one, wouldn't it mean that we, who are hundreds of thousands of kilometers away, would all be in trouble? Hurry back. All living things can't understand. In the current battlefield, Jia Yan is almost at a one-sided disadvantage, but he has black holes in his hands and can explode one or two. It's hard to say who will win and who will lose. But if Jia Yan had some sense, no one would think that fighting a group of semi-stars was a wise choice. But they forgot that when it comes to crazy, they still have to refer to MOK. I saw Jia Yan facing off against a group of semi-star level experts in the starry sky. Hearing the opponent forcing him to fight, the Mosquito body in the battle armor actually smiled lightly. Then, the bird's metal armored body under his control nodded slightly. He said words that shocked the onlookers and some of the remnants of the disciples. Since you all want to fight with me, MOK, then if it's easy, fight, then fight. Jia Yan actually said words that no one could guess, and he actually fought. In a sub-level, you really have to face a group of medium-talented and semi-star level people alone. There is even a high-level talented person among this group of medium-talented and semi-star level experts. It's crazy. He must have been just joking, and then he ran away. Some onlookers thought that Jia Yan was trying to be tough verbally and that it was impossible to fight him. After all, even if Jia Yan used a black hole to self-destruct, it might not be able to threaten such a group of semi-stellar experts who gathered together. They only needed to self-destruct. In front of the black hole, we can collectively use our control power to protect ourselves. Others thought that Jia Yan did not dare to fight, but Jia Yan proved his words with actions. He retreated and entered subspace. Look. MOK is moving forward in the subspace, so fast. He actually dares to fight, and he also takes the initiative to attack. Crazy. Sure enough, the craziest person in our dark realm is MOK. A sub-level person dares to attack a group of semi-stars. Sure enough, the name of the madman must be MOK. The noise from the surrounding audience was extremely loud. You must know that they all believed that it was impossible for Jia Yan to fight. But now he not only agreed to fight with a group of semi-stellar experts, but he could even be seen actively approaching that group in the subspace. Half-star strong man. Really crazy, not just a little bit crazy, but completely crazy. A sub-level, facing a group of half-stars, is simply life-threatening. Bold. This MOK really dares to attack us. The disciples on the other side were also shocked by this scene. You must know that they were still discussing how to contain Jia Yan if he escaped. After all, although the talent in subspace is terrifying, it is even more difficult to deal with Jia Yan's ability to enter the deep subspace. But if they really want to find a way, more than 30.5 stars can always think of a way. If it doesn't work, they will join forces. Using the power of control to seal the surrounding world, Jia Yan will also be forced out of the subspace. But what I didn't expect was that MOK actually agreed to challenge a group of them alone. A lunatic even crazier than this group of homeless dogs. From the perspective of a half-star, this is too bold and offensive. Die to me. Jia Yan traveled extremely fast in the subspace and arrived in front of a half-star with moderate talent in less than a second. The other party had already expected that at the semi-star level, as long as the space shuttle was not too weird, anyone could see the shadow of the person traveling through space. When he saw Jia Yan arriving, he immediately took control of his power and started to use it. Not only him, but also the semi-star level beings around him all used control power at the same time. Seal him and kill him. The high-level talent, half-star level, roared and also used his full strength. Facing the attack of a sub-level genius, this group of semi-star geniuses completely joined forces and used their control power with all their strength, without even thinking that the other party was an ordinary sub-level powerhouse. Of course, In the eyes of dark creatures, this Moke is no longer an ordinary sub-level person. Boom boom boom. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1046. Boom boom boom. Dozens of half-star level creatures use the power to control the world, which is almost comparable to the suppressive power of a real half-star level creature. This shows how dangerous the controlled world is. Novel. Then Mok is dead. Several creatures from the Disciple Corps were so excited that they were crushed by the power of control when they saw the creatures flying in the space, and then swallowed whole by the twisted subspace. This Sigwan lunatic, who is feared by the entire Dark Territory, is not only dead when faced with a group of half-stars, but even his proud black hole cannot have time to explode. The melon-eating crowd watching around also shook their heads helplessly. I thought I could see a good show, but it ended like this. But this is normal. When a sub-level person faces a group of semi-star geniuses, what else do you want? This Mok has performed well enough. At least at the end of his life, he still dared to challenge a group of semi-star geniuses. As a star-level charger, he can be regarded as a bold second-level powerhouse throughout the ages. If you're dead, you're dead. What's the use of being brave? It seems like this Mok is just a lunatic. All the onlookers were disappointed. Originally, they thought they would see the legendary sight of a black hole exploding, but it ended so simply. Everyone felt bored. Wrong. Just when all the creatures were feeling that the matter was over, the leader of the Yahuwah forces suddenly shouted. He stared intently at the Moke who was being controlled by a group of semi-stellar creatures and disrupted the space, and then there was a hint of shock in his eyes. It turns out that in that twisted space, the space was disrupted by dozens of half-star strong men, and the dead Moke was not a real person at all. Rather, it is a small piece of interstellar material. Anyone who has felt an object moving quickly in subspace before has never thought that this object is just a star-shaped substance. After all, it is too fast. This is just Jia Yan's substitute method. What about his true identity? The leader of the Night Flower Force was shocked and looked at him from a distance, and then his eyes suddenly froze. Because behind the celebrating semi-star group, behind a huge creature slightly away from the large group, the shadow of a black metallic monster appeared quietly. He is Jia Yan. Humph, do you really think I'm stupid enough to fight you head-on? Jia Yan appeared behind this medium-talented half-star creature, and then his metal armor claws reached out. A silent blow. The mid-level talent and half-star creature that was originally celebrating suddenly became expressionless. Originally, with his strength, he would not be hit by this approaching sneak attack. At least he could avoid the vital point at the critical moment. But Jia Yan's attack was silent. What's more important is that at this moment, everyone thought that the battle was over, and there was no thought of guarding against the sneak attacker. So Jia Yan's blow was actually effective. Puff. The space trembled, and the medium-talented half-star existence fell apart in an instant. Jia Yan's attack had the invasion of cell power, causing all the cells in the opponent's body to explode, thus showing an extremely terrifying blood explosion scene. What happened? The half-star level disciples who were originally celebrating were all shocked, and then they seemed to understand something instantly. Then Jia Yan is not dead. You bastard, you actually attacked one of us and died instantly. How is that possible? Kill him. In almost less than 0.0001 second, the place where the torn monster was located was bombarded by a volley of various brainwave powers. The entire space was distorted and oscillated. This kind of bombardment from dozens of semi-stellar experts jointly caused the bombardment, let alone the normal space, even the subspace, to be completely chaotic. If Jia Yan was still in the subspace in that area, is definitely cut by the chaotic subspace, and he may die, or at least be seriously injured. But there was no way he could make such a mistake. After the blow just now, he was like an assassin, killing people and walking away. Now the dozens of half-star strongmen came with bombardment power, but they couldn't even reach his shadow. Don't be afraid, this guy is only as strong as he is. As long as we are careful, he will never be like that idiot just now. That's right, that guy was too careless just now. He died in a single blow from a sub-level creature. He was a disgrace to us half-star experts. Not only did Jia Yan not die, he even counterattacked instantly. This scene not only shocked the exiled half-star creatures of the disciples involved, but also the onlookers were extremely horrified. Let me go, it turns out that MOK is not dead. Not only did he not die, he even killed a half-star with average talent in one blow. It's scary, it's too scary. Is this still a sub-level? It's like a high-level talent with a half-star level. Don't forget, he is only using his space talent now, and his biggest trump card has not been used yet. When outside onlookers just said that Jia Yan had a trump card. As if he could hear their words, Jia Yan used his trump card. Those are his two black holes that have already revealed some clues. The black hole has been affecting the movement of a group of powerful creatures, but now they have completely disappeared into space. Although the people around them, including the half-stars on the battlefield, could clearly feel their movement, after all, it was difficult to hide such weight from the powerful in subspace. Using the great power of the Space Stone Julie, Jia Yan controlled two huge black holes and moved quickly. Buzz. Just when a half-star creature from the disciple group on the edge of the team was looking at the surroundings very calmly, a terrifying wave appeared around him. Here. He had obviously calculated that Jia Yan would attack him, the lone person on the edge. So at this moment, he felt the emergence of fluctuations and suddenly threw out his own blow. No matter what, he is only a junior level. If he collides with me, he will be dead, huh? The face of this half-star creature with moderate talent who counterattacked changed completely the moment he made the counterattack. It turned out that the place where he fought back was completely dark, and a desperate attraction directly pulled him forward. Just as he was still attacking, he immediately followed the force and fell directly into the gap. The scream sounded almost instantly, and then stopped abruptly because of the closing of the space. This. A moderately talented and semi-star level expert next to him could hardly believe his eyes. But he didn't even have time to think too much. Behind him, a black gap also approached quietly revealing a clue behind the strong man. Buzz. The space rippled, and the strong man turned his head sharply. Seeing that the gap was facing him, he was so frightened that he flew forward with all his strength, trying to avoid the gap that opened in the subspace. But what he didn't expect was that right in front of him, the gap in space that had just devoured his colleagues appeared again. He just happened to rush forward, just in time, and without even a scream, he directly bumped into the gap. All this is like a rabbit rising and a falcon falling, time is too fast for people to react. While a group of half-star experts were watching the two black holes that revealed a hint of clues, a faint black metal shadow quietly appeared beside a moderately talented half-star creature far away from the battle place. Appear. Then he stretched out his paw slightly, as if gently brushing his lover's body. But this seemingly gentle brush caused the body of the half-star creature to suddenly tremble. After this, he reluctantly turned around, his whole body trembling, looking at the body of the bird monster that had entered the subspace again. At the moment of death, he couldn't even see the side of his murderer completely, and it just exploded into pieces with a bang in the space. How could this happen? Suddenly, 3 more half-star creatures died, and there was almost an uproar inside and outside the entire battle circle. Jia Yan moved in and out of the subspace. As a subspace creature, this fighting method is what he should do. He is like an assassin, harvesting the lives of others at a moment when others cannot see or even detect it. This is a move of a subspace-gifted creature, a very famous move in the universe. It stands to reason that Jia Yan's actions would not cause too much sensation to others. But the strength he showed was too terrifying. A sub-level strongman harvests the lives of medium-talented and semi-star level creatures, just like playing. What's even more terrifying is the two artificial black holes he owns. These two big black guys can actually be controlled by Jia Yan from a distance, and with the cooperation of the two, they are like two helpers, even almost invincible. No one can do anything to these two helpers. 4 teammates died in an instant. More than 30 half-star creatures dropped directly to more than 20. The half-star army of the disciple group was almost in chaos. Facing a sub-level, they were already cautious enough, but they still fought like this. Beating an OSS wouldn't be so exaggerated, right? Facing Jia Yan, who came and went without a trace, they didn't have much to do. Now with the addition of 2 black holes whose suction power seemed to be several times more powerful than the rumored black hole that Moke had exploded, they have no choice. Don't be anxious. Didn't we discuss some ways to deal with his subspace talent before we came here? Let's use it now. His 2 black holes are also stabilized by subspace. If we use that method, we might even be able to connect his black holes. It can all be restricted. During the chaos among a group of subordinates, the highly talented semi-star leader quickly roared to stabilize the morale of the troops. Yes, we still have that method, use it quickly. If Jia Yan loses his space talent, he will lose half his life. Several half-star subordinates nodded quickly in sudden realization. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1047. How to seal the space. In the subspace, Jia Yan was stunned when he heard the words of this group of semi-stellar creatures. He retreated toward the rear. But the group of semi-stellar creatures had already gathered in one place, and then exerted some kind of power. They used a certain creature as the core, and dozens of strong men gathered around him, shouting and responding. With him as the center point, the entire space visible to the naked eye turned gray. It turns out that this creature is also a being with space talent, and his space talent actually not only uses space to fight, but also seals space. Originally, no matter how powerful the power of one of his monsters was, it would be difficult to say that it could kill Jia Yan, but now dozens of creatures are adding power to it, and the power of the band suddenly spread like an explosion. You must know that it is the power used by a whole group of semi-star creatures. Even if Jia Yan can play with them alone, in fact, the power of this group of creatures is extremely terrifying. Now that they join forces, even if they are real, a star-level powerhouse might even look at him sideways. Visible to the naked eye, the sealed space instantly turned gray. Horrible. In the subspace, Jia Yan quickly flew back, but the gray in front of him was getting closer and closer. In the blocked subspace, the entire distortion stopped, and the surrounding space even condensed. If he were there, he would definitely be discovered by the opponent, and then attacked, causing serious injury or even death. What a weird space talent. It actually targets other space experts and bans them. Jia Yan looked at the creature that was protected by a group of semi-stellar creatures. He was a monster that looked like a big yellow frog. At this time, his eyes widened, and wherever he looked, the entire space condensed. Jia Yan evaded dangerously, and finally retreated for several seconds. When he reached a place tens of thousands of kilometers away, the condensed feeling disappeared. What? He didn't get banned even in this way. Nearly 30 space creatures from the disciple group looked at the surrounding space. In the gray-white area, they could directly see the frozen subspace, and there was no figure of Jia Yan in it. Fortunately, Jia Yan escaped quickly, otherwise he would have been frozen there and killed directly by several powerful men from half a star. It's impossible to maintain our power. We didn't freeze him this time, and we will definitely succeed next time. Okay, let's loosen the power, otherwise it will consume too much. The high-talented half-star leader who gave orders said this to a group of medium-talented half-star subordinates. The people nearby quickly stopped transmitting energy to the frog monster. In just such a short time, dozens of people were tired. Especially the frog creature, it almost seemed to be paralyzed, its eyes could only turn around and it was almost unable to move. Damn it, in order to deal with a group of half-stars like this have become like this, and they haven't been caught yet. Millions of kilometers away, the beings watching the scene from a distance were stunned. Facing a sub-level player like Jia Yan, it would be enough to dispatch dozens of semi-star geniuses. It's funny that Jia Yan can't be caught like this. That Jia Yan is really scary. Even the entire space is frozen, but he is able to escape. How powerful is his speed and flexibility in subspace? That's right, I used to think that Jia Yan was so awesome just because he had space talent, but now look at it, among the geniuses with space talent, he might be the top one, even a semi-star strong man with the same space talent. Can't catch him. All the half-star creatures were staring at each other. Deep down in their hearts, creatures like the disciples still do not think that Jia Yan can kill his own group of coalition forces, but they no longer have confidence in whether they can catch Jia Yan. Even after using this method of freezing the subspace, Jia Yan was able to escape like this. If they did it again, most of their strength would be consumed, and there would really be nothing they could do. But the onlookers and the disciples were all shocked, and Jia Yan was also extremely frightened. Fortunately, I reacted quickly, otherwise if I were caught by them, it would be a death sentence. Jia Yan was almost frightened when he thought of the danger before. Now he also understood that having subspace talent did not mean that everything would be worry-free. After all, there were many ways to deal with space creatures. Especially the stronger you get, the more solutions you have to deal with subspace. Even at the star level, almost a strong person can enter the subspace, but there is a gap with the existence of space talent. Jia Yanfu's eyes flickered as he looked at the group of disciples who were tens of thousands of kilometers away. The more dangerous they were, the more urgent he felt in his heart. He wanted to destroy this group of creatures that hated him to the extreme. Of staying here. How about, really throwing an artificial black hole far away and blowing it up? Jia Yan seriously considered this option. This group of semi-stellar creatures is so powerful that if it were the man-made black hole that exploded at the headquarters of the disciples, it might not be able to cause much harm to them who were on guard. But the current two are different. This group of powerful creatures may not have thought that the two black holes carried by Jia Yan this time are much more powerful than the last time. If they self-destruct, even if they join forces, they probably won't be able to survive. But I'm not willing to let the man-made black hole be destroyed just after I made it. Jia Yan quickly gave up this option. Otherwise, I will take the risk and try to consume their power, and then find an opportunity to kill the frog creature. That way, I won't have to worry about being banned again. Jia Yan's eyes sparkled, and he decided to do this. The subspace ahead was unsealed again, and the distortion in that space reappeared in Jia Yan's eyes as if nothing had happened. Rush. He controlled the armor and flew forward. Coming. Just as he was charging, the several space genius disciples who had been paying attention to the surroundings screamed in surprise. They had no way of seeing where Jia Yan was before, but as soon as Jia Yan charged, the entire subspace would oscillate slightly, so they could instantly determine Jia Yan's location. Buzz. The entire subspace suddenly condensed. Before Jia Yan approached the gray area in the subspace, he suddenly turned around and ran away like crazy toward the road he came from. Danger after danger, the gray seal pursuing from behind once again brushed against his armored body, and Jia Yan escaped. Damn, just a little bit closer. Tens of thousands of kilometers away, the group of strong disciples were all extremely upset, thinking that this was Jia Yan's luck. I'm so tired. If I try it 2 more times at most, I won't be able to use this move anymore. The power you load into me is too huge, and I can't bear it. The frog creature looked at the subspace tens of thousands of kilometers away, and could vaguely see Jia Yan there with his frog eyes. He seemed to have a feeling that Jia Yan was not really nearly caught by them, but did so on purpose. No matter what, even if I lose my strength, he can't pose a threat to the existence of so many stars like us. After all, the level gap cannot be smoothed out so easily. The frog creature's eyes bulged as it stared in the direction where Jia Yan might be. As a creature in the same space, it is not that he cannot enter the subspace, but it is not necessary. Now as long as he can see where Jia Yan is, it is a meritorious service. Just as he was observing, his expression suddenly changed. Here we go again. This time we are closer, he can't escape, please pass the energy to me quickly. When the frog creature saw Jia Yan approaching them again, it seemed that they judged that they could not use the space seal again and wanted to come over and take advantage of the opportunity to make a sneak attack. They quickly shouted to the surrounding friends. Hurry up! A half-star genius quickly transferred his maximum power to the body of this frog creature. In fact, this kind of transmission is not efficient, because the energy composition of each creature is different. If you want to transmit without harming the frog creature, the energy lost in the middle is very considerable. Of course, no matter how much it was lost, it was still the power of dozens of semi-star geniuses, and the terrifying power assembled was definitely not something ordinary creatures could imagine. Buzz. The entire starry sky turned gray. Haha, I got it this time, come on. A half-star of the disciple group who was almost out of breath also had the talent of space, but could not transmit the power. This time he saw Jia Yan escaping, and the back of his armor almost touched the forbidden gray, and he almost roared in surprise. Hearing his voice, several semi-star level creatures around him who originally wanted to release their strength became extremely excited and once again increased their power. The frog creature almost screamed and gritted its teeth, suddenly increasing the power coming from them, and then the gray spurting out in front accelerated instantly. "MOK, you can't escape." Almost everyone yelled this. But in their field of vision, in front of the gray seal, a creature that looked thin and thin, with its tail grazing even a trace of the force of the seal, actually jumped directly into the subspace at the most critical moment, and seemed to have used some life-saving means. Speeding up instantly. In fact, Jia Yan did use his hidden power, which was an explosion of his own cell power, and it was an explosion that was harmful to himself. This is the only way to escape without risk. This time it's banned. Damn it, why did they escape again? This guy isn't playing tricks on us, is he? He's defrauding us of his power. Some members of the disciple group began to wonder. After all, they were all strong men and their minds couldn't really be that stupid. But just when they were hesitating, tens of thousands of kilometers away, a figure that did not conceal its figure staggered out of the subspace. Of course, Jia Yan's brainwave power was also greatly depleted. After falling out of the subspace, his whole person looked sluggish. He controlled the metal body to emerge from the space like a drunken man, and then turned his head, almost gritting his teeth and looking at a group of strong men from the outlaw group. "You are so despicable, I will not play with you anymore." After saying that, Jia Yan staggered forward and flew away. Seeking genuine subscription. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1048. Anyone who sees the scene will understand that MOK is definitely injured and must run away now. Wherever you run, we will chase you. Seeing that Jia Yan actually escaped without even entering the room, all the disciples and half-star geniuses were overjoyed. After increasing their speed, they pursued Jia Yan in the direction of escape. Music, literature. As for Jia Yan Fei, in ordinary space, not to mention that his current brainwave power is much weaker. Even if he flies at full strength, his speed is still not as fast as that of a half-star powerhouse, let alone the specialty of a few of the geniuses of the disciple regiment. Flight speed. Now that the two sides are chasing each other, they are only tens of thousands of kilometers apart. In less than 10 minutes, the distance between the two sides is getting closer and closer. The rest of the fugitive group, you are crazy, be careful I blow up a black hole. Jia Yan, who was running for his life in front, saw the creatures of the disciple group getting closer and closer behind him, and he quickly yelled in fear. Explode. MOK, don't say whether you will succeed in exploding the black hole. Even if you succeed, we are ready for defense. Your self-destruction will not hurt us at all. The high-end talented semi-star at the back almost felt a shiver in his heart when he heard Jia Yan's words, but he still said the same thing. In fact, he was also afraid that Jia Yan would explode a black hole. Even if he had the means to protect himself, several people would inevitably die. Don't listen to what he says. I've seen it. His strength has dropped a lot. The two black holes have not caught up now. They are too far away and he can't explode. Even if he explodes, it will have minimal impact on us. Suddenly, the frog and half-star genius suddenly opened his mouth and pointed out Jia Yan's crisis. At this moment, the entire team of disciples became energetic. Haha, MOK, you are bound to die today. Even a black hole cannot explode. A group of creatures approached Jia Yan's location more quickly. Jia Yan, who was flying in front, seemed to be forced to a dead end. Seeing that the strong man behind was following him, he was almost within striking distance. He quickly tore open the subspace. Almost everyone could see it, stumbling. Fall into it? He's exhausted. He can't fly fast in the subspace. Hurry up and seal the space again. He's dead. The highly gifted half-star creature quickly roared. But the frog monster's expression changed. Sir, I used too much force just now. Now I can only use the space seal once at most. If we can't kill him this time, we won't be able to use the power of space seal. Look at him, can he still escape a space ban? It's impossible. The high-endowed half-star leader roared almost angrily, hurry, or he will escape again. The frog creature gritted his teeth and finally nodded. Then the power of a group of semi-stellar creatures suddenly spread. The frog monster's mouth spilled racial blood, and then roared, banned. The entire space in front turned gray and white, and the entire area was sealed off. As you can see, this ban is also much slower. Jia Yan, who was flying in the subspace, was also much slower, and both sides looked extremely weak. Moreover, Jia Yan's flying subspace can no longer enter deep levels. Even a strong person can see him looming in the subspace and real space. This is a sign of extreme weakness. The forbidden power slowly spread behind Jia Yan's armor. As soon as it touched his bird body and tail, he was like a frightened rabbit, suddenly bursting with power and rushing forward. The distance increased a little, but not by much. Come on, it's just a hair away. All the semi-stellar creatures were trying their best to eat, and almost all of them were roaring wildly. The power of the ban once again spread behind Jia Yan, who was almost unable to fly. Puff! Finally, his bird body and tail seemed to be frozen, and he moved forward centimeter by centimeter, almost unable to fly. At this moment, the high-talented half-star leader of the disciple group flashed his eyes, and then a torrent of force spread out in the space, blasting out towards the frozen Jia Yan. Brainwave power. Under this blow, he thought that the exhausted MOK would definitely be seriously injured, and he might even die directly. But just when the force was about to hit the banned Jia Yan struggled violently. Perhaps the power of the ban only froze a little of his tail, but Jia Yan's desperate struggle was actually driven away by him. Puff puff. The entire frozen space was shattered by the brainwave power, and then the distorted space returned to its original state. A little further ahead, Jia Yan fell out of the subspace. A mouthful of blood came out of the metal-like bird's mouth, and he seemed to be seriously injured. But before he finished spraying blood, as soon as he exposed his body in the normal space, he stubbornly tore open the space again and stumbled into the subspace to escape. So tenacious. Almost everyone watching the battle was shocked when they saw such a scene. Damn, what did I see? A group of half-stars were playing with that mock. The strength of both sides was declining rapidly. But Moke is dying. He fell out of the subspace several times and is now bleeding. After all, the opponent is dozens of semi-stellar experts. He is only one level below Moke, so there is no way he knows how far behind he is. But he's so tenacious. He's still stumbling around like this, but he's still able to escape. No, it seems that this guy can become the most terrifying sub-level in our dark realm. It is not unreasonable. With this tenacity alone, I am far behind. It's a pity that he is about to die, and those crazy people of the disciple group still have some energy left. Jia Yan, who was regarded by many spectators as being about to die in subspace, flew with all his strength. The joy in the eyes of the group of disciples in the rear was even more obvious. Haha, if he's banned again, I won't believe he won't die. The high-talented half-star leader of the disciple group roared so hard that his eyes almost turned red. Chief, I can't do it anymore. Blood overflowed from the frog creature's mouth, and then he said haggardly. Who says it can't be done? I don't know you yet. Give me a try and I'll make it up to you later. The frog creature was helpless. Although he didn't really want any compensation, after all, it would be difficult for him to make up for the power he had lost in the future. But the leader said so, so he had to really fight for it. I give you all the power, I really want to catch him this time. Puff 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 puff. In one breath, dozens of strands of power transmitted by the semi-star power came to the frog creature again, and then his body was shaky in an instant, and his eyes almost bulged. Seal it for me. He roared and yelled. Then the entire space was blocked, and it seemed that this outbreak was a blockade that seemed to reflect back on him. Such an explosion was of course extremely fast, even comparable to the speed of his first ban. At this speed, Jia Yan, who was almost out of gas, shouldn't have run away. A group of half-star level disciples used their full strength one by one, and they all opened their eyes wide, wanting to look at Jia Yan, who was sealed in the land of space that time. As long as they see him being banned, they will use all kinds of power to tear Jia Yan into pieces. The spectators who were watching were also looking at the battle place extremely nervously, wanting to see how MOK was banned and then died. In fact, being able to reach the step before being caught, this MOK is definitely the only terrifying second level they have ever seen in their lives. Even if they say now that this MOK is a top talent, they will not have any shock. Originally, there were rumors in this dark area that Tingtianga Moke was a top genius. After seeing it with their own eyes today, they were even more convinced of this. After all, a sub-level person who can single-handedly deal with a group of semi-stellar geniuses, and even make the entire team of semi-stellar geniuses die with great exertion, is abnormal if he is not a top-level genius. It's a pity that this MOK is going to die now. The gray color of the forbidden space is extremely fast, visible to the naked eye, and almost blocks tens of thousands of kilometers. And the crumbling Jia Yan has already appeared in front of the ban, and almost in the next moment, he will be completely blocked by the ban. Haha, die. When his tail, which had been blocked several times, was almost touched by the forbidden power again, several half-star strong men of the disciple group, including the highly talented half-star leader, simultaneously used the strongest power they could use now. Blast out the brainwave power. The power is frightening. Let alone a sub-level person, even a highly talented and semi-star level being will definitely be seriously injured if he is bombarded by these forces at once. But just when this piece of power almost hit Moke, who was almost banned, the crumbling Moke seemed to come to life in an instant. His swaying body suddenly became agile, and then he flicked his tail, and his flying speed suddenly increased. This speed was only like this even when he first appeared. The banning power that almost affected his tail was just a hair's breadth away, and he missed his target again by 1,000 miles. It was close before, but this time, it was completely different. The speed of Moke's flight suddenly increased, and it was simply not something that the pursuing forbidden power could catch up with. What? Impossible. Seeing with his own eyes, Mok seemed to have changed into a different person. From being as breathless as a gossamer and almost dying, he suddenly transformed into a fish-like agility. He moved forward a long distance in an instant, avoiding the power of the ban. Going to the subspace ahead, one by one the half-star powerhouses of the disciple group all cried out in shock and astonishment. When the frog creature using the power of confinement saw this scene, he could no longer suppress his pressure and spat out a large mouthful of blood. Then he became exhausted and no longer seemed to have any strength. He overstretched his strength, and if he didn't look like a useless person next time, he would be almost there. At this scene, the people around him, whether they were spectators or those who were fighting, were extremely shocked. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1049. The only person who wasn't shocked was probably Jia Yan himself, who had always known what he had in mind. That's right, he was acting from beginning to end. His previous weakness and the fact that he was banned at the slightest chance were all faked by him. Although there is danger, if you don't do this, you won't be able to consume the power of the opponent's group of semi-star creatures. Haha, the effect is good. The guy who implemented the ban is almost exhausted. Let alone continue to block the space, even fighting will be almost impossible. After the forbidden power disappeared, Jia Yan faintly appeared from the subspace. Looking at the creature in front of him who had almost reached his limit and now looked extremely shocked, he felt that he had completely crushed the opponent in terms of IQ. Of course, the other party's judgment is actually quite normal. A sub-level, no matter how terrifying, even if there is a top talent, his performance before was outstanding. Who would have thought that Jia Yan now could be even more terrifying than a top talent? Therefore, it is normal for the other party to misjudge, because no one would have thought that Jia Yan's actual escape ability is far beyond what his level should be. Mok, you actually still have this kind of power. You. The high-end half-star talent, seeing Jia Yan still performing well at this time, suddenly felt a thump in his heart. What am I? Am I fighting you at a lower level? Can't I use some tricks? Jia Yan shook his head slightly. In fact, Jia Yan himself understood that his current brainwave power was also greatly depleted. But with the help of surface cell power to share the pressure, he still has a lot of power left. In addition, he is an evolved beast with super endurance, and his physical strength and brainwave power recovered a lot during the conversation, so he has no battery life at all. Worries. Humph, no matter what kind of scheming you are playing, the most you can do now is escape. We will go to Tingtian Pavilion later and destroy it. Let's see if you, the so-called lunatic, feel sorry for you. The high-end half-star existence said quietly to Jia Yan. Jia Yan let out a long sigh in his heart, and then looked at this creature whose strength should far exceed his own. You. He said with a bold tone, there is no chance. After saying that, Jia Yan rushed towards the more than 20 half-star experts from the disciple group. At the same time, he communicated with his brainwave power, and the two black holes that were far behind the strong men of the disciple group suddenly erupted with gravitational force. Buzz! An extremely terrifying gravitational force appeared in the entire sky, and then a group of powerful creatures from the disciples were pulled to stagger one by one. How could it be possible? His control is so strong. Also, the gravity of these two black holes is too terrifying. The faces of the 24 star creatures all changed drastically, and then they wanted to use their strength to resist, but they were shocked to find that their strength was far weakened and they were unable to resist. This MOK is really crazy. He actually dared to attack us. That was all just now. Now that we are all prepared, he thought he could succeed. Yes, even if our strength is greatly weakened, he thinks that with his own strength, he can fight head-on with a group of semi-star warriors like us. It is simply wishful thinking. In front of a half-star who was insulting Jia Yan just now, a shadow quickly appeared. I've been wary of you for a long time, die. When the half-star creature saw the shadow's appearance, its face turned cold and its strength suddenly burst out. You must know that he is a semi-star with medium talent after all. If he really bursts out with power, he is simply not something that ordinary sub-levels can fight against. Buzz! The moment he burst out with strength, a force of gravity appeared from his side. What? The gravity of the black hole that was so far away just now has come to me? Not good. This half-star existence never thought that one of the man-made black holes that was still in a distant place to contain their gang of thugs would arrive at his side in an instant, and then he would burst out with a burst of attack. When it hits, it is attracted by gravity, and the whole body deviates slightly. And this little is the difference between life and death. When his power was transferred to the frog creature before, it suffered a lot of losses. Now that it was attracted by gravity, a feeling of weakness invaded his heart. His shock was not over yet, and the shadow that stepped out of the subspace had already arrived in front of him. Under his disbelieving gaze, the shadow's claws, which almost turned into residual light, grabbed a large piece of flesh and blood from his chest. In this flesh and blood, there is his heart. No. How did I die here? I am a mid-level talent with a half-star level. He murmured to himself, and then the brainwave power of the shadow creature's attack exploded in his body. Puff! The space vibrated, and the entire creature exploded into a piece of flesh and blood. This scene ignited the entire battlefield inside and outside. That MOK actually has such strength. He pretended to be so good just now. It seems that he has great intentions. Could it be that he really has a plan to kill several members of the disciples here? Are you trying to escape at the stellar level? That's crazy. You are mistaken. He is originally a madman, and a madman with terrifying strength. He actually did it. Now there are 5 half-star level remnants of the disciple regiment who died in his hands. This will definitely be the headline of tomorrow's news. If the outside world knows what happened here, the entire genius war, everyone will go crazy because of him. Moke must be planning to kill 2 more of the half-star coalition forces before escaping. In this way, even if the other party goes to Tingtian Pavilion to sabotage and kill the people there, Moke will not lose. The spectators are no longer calm now. The sense of conformism that they have always cultivated has been completely defeated by Jia Yan. Everyone is wondering whether the level of the powerful people in the universe they know now is fake. Otherwise, a sub-level would actually be like a super high-end talent half-star level, killing a group of mid-level talent half-stars there. Even in that group of half-stars, there is a high-level talented half-star. Moke must escape. The highly talented and semi-star level expert has not taken action yet. If he does, even Moke will definitely escape. Sure enough, in the battlefield, when the faint shadow appeared in the visible space again, a force containing terrifying pressure came and suppressed it fiercely. "Mok, you are too arrogant." The leader of the powerful leader of the disciple group, the highly talented half-star level, took action. Even though the previous ban had consumed a lot of his strength, he was different from ordinary subordinates and had to guard against people from the Yahuwah influence, so he still retained a lot of strength. Therefore, the power of this suppression is absolutely terrifying, not much weaker than when he was completely victorious. Press me with strength. Don't think that I haven't fought with high-end talent and half-star level. Jia Yan also had a fighting spirit in his eyes. At this moment, he could no longer solve the fighting situation with his brain. When it was time to fight with passion, his legs would not weaken. The claws of his armor that he raised collided hard with the opponent. Wave. The entire space was like a bubble bursting, the space was torn open, and a terrifying sound erupted. This is the force of oscillation, like an invisible membrane in the vacuum that breaks completely, and the sound produced is not much lower than the sound in the air. What? The highly talented semi-star leader was extremely frightened and was severely shaken back more than 300 meters by the force of the counterattack. On the other hand, Jia Yan was instantly blown away by the fierce force, flying as much as 10 kilometers in 1 second, and then his body instantly jumped into the subspace. It's so scary. Even if the strength of this highly talented semi-star existence drops by a full 30%, it's still not something I can fight head-on. In the subspace, Jia Yan looked at the cracked armor claws and felt a little distressed. You must know that this is the first time that the battle armor has broken after getting it. It is natural that Jia Yan would be distressed. Fortunately, Ziba is in my Tingtian pavilion, and she can help me repair it directly. And what is broken now is only the battle layer that was added later. Under the protection of this battle layer, the main body of the battle armor is not injured. Jia Yan looked at the crack in the armor and saw that the Dark War layer added later had begun to repair itself. He was immediately more satisfied with the performance of the armor. When fighting, the energy of this battle armor with added battle layers is much more powerful than that of the concept ship. If we want to make an analogy, the concept ship is like a stable output. It is better than the simple and stable operation, and can be used in battle armor. The operation is unstable and complicated, but the output of violence can instantly increase the user's power. The previous impact was a huge boost from the battle armor, allowing Jia Yan to withstand the attack of the highly talented semi-star leader. Speaking of which, Jia Yan still prefers the violence of battle armor. Jia Yan himself felt satisfied with the encounter, and the surrounding creatures looked even more suspicious of life. There's something wrong with my eyes. A sub-level person, fighting head-on with a highly talented and half-star strong man, but not seriously injured or even killed. Am I dreaming? You are not dreaming. This world is probably dreaming. A bug, it's definitely a bug. That MOK is a big loophole in the universe. Otherwise, how could there be such a heaven-defying existence? It's simply impossible. Although Jia Yan suffered some losses in that confrontation, and the highly talented half-star leader also suffered a huge loss of strength, this scene still made some of the onlookers almost go insane. You know, that is a high-level talent with a half-star level. In the entire genius battlefield, except for the top half-star geniuses, they are the supreme, the sky and the earth. But now, he was actually fighting against a sub-level person who could kill with just a blow of his breath. One blow did not kill the opponent. There must be a loophole in this universe, which is why evil monsters like MOK were born. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1050. The people outside the battle group felt unbelievable about this attack. Within the battle group, there were even more than 20 half-star level disciples. Almost all of them stared, doubting life and the world. Luan Mobile Network com. That's not right. Did our leader consume so much power before? How come we can't even solve this trivial level? I have fought against the leader before, but I couldn't even fight him at half strength. How could this MOK have such ability? A mid-level talent with a name of half-star level is like seeing the sky fall, like seeing the universe explode. You must know that the reason why their team exists is because there is also a highly talented semi-star leader. As long as there is a high-end talented half-star level, then their disciple group has the possibility to rise again, because even in the central star area, high-end half-star level talents are extremely top-notch supermasters. In this dark realm here, there are very few forces with such power. With this person in charge of absolute force, they can re-establish their power at any time. But now this supreme being is actually fighting against a rank-level opponent, and he is unable to kill the opponent head-on? In the past, Jia Yan had been using various methods to threaten them, and man-made black holes had always threatened them, but this group of mid-level talented semi-stars still would not believe that Jia Yan could fight them head-on, even if Jia Yan faced off against a mid-level talented half-star. In a star-studded battle, they all thought they would not lose. But what happened just now made them feel like the world was falling. Haha, these people are doubting life. In the subspace, Jia Yan saw the expressions of living creatures in the outside world. Inside the battle armor, his mosquito face was also extremely satisfied. Originally, he thought that his current combat effectiveness should be at the top of the entire genius battlefield. After all, no matter using black holes or using brains, they are all crooked ways. Real combat effectiveness is the foundation. Now he is sure that his frontal combat effectiveness will definitely not be weaker than half-star level with mid-level talent. Even high-end talent with half-star level can hit him. In this case, coupled with factors such as black holes, his strength can really dominate the genius battlefield. These creatures must be scared now. Jia Yan saw the 20-odd creatures. After coming back to his senses, he finally understood that they were facing a terrifying creature that could pose a threat to their lives and was not weak in frontal combat. He was immediately frightened. After looking around, he himself was slightly happy. Now they are afraid, especially since all their strength has been exhausted. This feeling of powerlessness has only increased their fear. Then the fun officially begins. Frontal fighting is not Jia Yan's style. Behind the extremely frightened medium-talented half-star creature, Jia Yan suddenly appeared. Careful! The highly talented half-star leader saw the scene from afar and quickly reminded the creature. But it's too late. The moment Jia Yan flew out, he used all his strength. Cell power and brainwave power exploded simultaneously. This guy who had previously transferred power to seal Jia Yan was working extremely hard, but the energy in his body was exhausted, and there was no possibility of resistance at all. Puff! The space swayed, and then Jia Yan retreated into the subspace again. The creature's expression froze slightly, and then its body was torn into pieces, and it was too dead to die. Despicable MOK, come out and fight me head-on if you can. When the high-talented half-star leader saw his dead subordinate, he was so angry that he had never been so angry before and yelled at the surrounding space. He was not only angry, but also a little frightened, because an idea flashed through his mind. That is, does this guy MOK want to keep the entire group of disciples here with his sub-level strength? It's very possible that if he explodes a black hole now, with our strength greatly reduced, even I might not be able to survive. The being's heart skipped a beat, then he looked left and right, fearing that Jia Yan might explode an artificial black hole with just one breath. But what he didn't know was that Jia Yan was not willing to explode the two black holes he finally made in order to deal with them. Another one. When he was looking around, in front of a certain medium-talented half-star creature, Daofei's claws came and scratched his head into pieces. And all the half-star experts, after that moment, their brainwave power gathered together, and all they bombarded was the corpse of the dead half-star Xiao-level creature. Jia Yan had already entered the subspace before that. The two black holes gradually became familiar with each other. When Jia Yan appeared in space again, he did not return to subspace, but directly faced 2.5 stars. Die. A half-star being with moderate talent suddenly attacked and wanted to kill Jia Yan. But his body was attracted by the sudden gravitational force and turned at an angle. The half-star creature on the other side also has a crooked body. At the angle where their attack deviated, Jia Yan's armored body was like an assassin approaching quickly, and then rushed past. Boom boom. Two explosions caused these two medium-talented and semi-star level creatures to die. God, we absolutely can't kill him. This guy is invincible to us. Finally, after killing 3/3 of his teammates, the mid-level talent and half-star creature couldn't bear it any longer. He is also a space creature and can enter subspace for a short time. He tore apart the subspace in fear and escaped into it, wanting to escape from the fighting place in a short time. But not long after, the body of this creature fell out of the subspace again. He fell out and became a corpse. MOK, are you crazy? You actually want to kill our entire team. The highly talented semi-star leader, seeing this scene, was sure of Jia Yan's plan. Revealing his figure from subspace, Jia Yan stood proudly in front of the half-star existence, and he nodded. Yes, since you all want me, Jia Yan, to die, then you must be prepared to be completely destroyed by me, MOK. You. Several half-star creatures wanted to say that Jia Yan was crazy, but they couldn't remember how many times they had said this. And was Jia Yan really crazy? After actually seeing his strength, they won't say that Jia Yan is crazy now, because he simply has the strength and dares to speak big words. Thinking about it carefully, none of the things that I thought he was crazy about before were the words of a lunatic when compared with his strength, because Jia Yan simply had that kind of ability. Want them to die now? MOK, don't be like this. I still have strength, and so do a few other people. If I fight you to the death, you are destined to be unable to get along. Why don't we all retreat now, and I will compensate you for some of the supplies. How about we all go our separate ways from now on? The highly talented half-star leader said through gritted teeth. He was unwilling to admit his failure, but if he refused, he was afraid that Jia Yan would kill all his subordinates, and it would be his turn next. Even if he doesn't think Jia Yan can kill him, the opponent has space talent and is faster than him, which will annoy him to death. Moreover, Jia Yan has the ultimate weapon in his hand, which are the two man-made black holes. If one of them explodes, he will be dead. This MOK, don't think that I will be kind. I have figured out his strength. If I regain my full strength next time, if I don't follow his tricks, he will be dead. The leader's eyes sparkled with hatred. The same is true for several subordinates of the disciple regiment, but they don't show any hatred on the surface. They are now weakened and it is extremely dangerous to fight Jia Yan again, so they are surrendering now. Whether they will cause trouble for Jia Yan in the future is another matter. Ah! Jia Yan smiled slightly. The smile was extremely disdainful. I want to reconcile with your disciples, that's what I thought from the beginning, but did your disciples give me a chance? They chased me several times, and even invited several half-star strong men to kill me who was still weak at the time. You guys, did you give me a chance at that time? Now you think I'll give you a chance, you're delusional. After Jia Yan finished speaking, he stopped talking. His body entered the subspace, and the two black holes skillfully carried out disruptive actions and continued their killing. Puff 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 puff. A series of sounds. The frog creature, the old monster who presided over the space band before, died extremely unwillingly after the sneak attack from the subspace. Before he died, he still looked at Jia Yan, feeling unwilling to do so. Because he is also a person with strong space talent, if he fights head-on and his strength does not decline, he is confident that he can at least escape. Even using his natural power, He had already thought of a way to slightly influence the two black holes so that Jia Yan could not use their power to kill people, and the balance of the battle was completely changed. But his strength was almost exhausted, and he no longer had that ability, so he could only die under Jia Yan's armor. It's no use being unwilling. After the frog creature died, the entire space was filled with corpses of countless powerful creatures scattered everywhere. After a long battle, there were no other living things in the entire starry sky. Except for the high-talented half-star leader, all the other disciples of the disciple group with medium-talented half-star leaders died. Jia Yan killed the frog creature, and then stood proudly in the universe with his armor covered in the blood of monsters of various colors. Face to face with the highly talented semi-star leader 200 kilometers away. The final decisive battle has arrived. Whether Jia Yan can succeed in his unparalleled feat of killing half a star's existence depends on this final battle. Leader of the disciple group, right? Back then, another leader of your organization died under my attack. He died heroically. I hope you won't be cowardly either. Jia Yan spoke to him calmly. You will be the one who dies. The high-end talented half-star leader was really going crazy at this time. Before Jia Yan could finish speaking, he had already charged. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1051. Jia Yan, who had a talent for subspace, could not escape, fight, and could only watch his subordinates die one after another. The half-star leader with high talent was scared and angry at the same time, and now there was no plan in his attack. With a huge loss of strength and a shaken mind, facing Jia Yan who has space talent and a black hole to help him, the outcome of this battle is already doomed. Puff. After fighting for more than 10 minutes, Jia Yan used the gravity of the black hole to deflect the opponent's blow, and finally caught his shoulder with one blow. Die together. The highly gifted half-star leader was actually extremely tough. Seeing that his team was doomed to be wiped out, when Jia Yan approached, he directly detonated his brainwave power, causing the entire universe to shake. Jia Yan did not expect that a highly talented semi-star powerhouse would act like this, and was immediately hit by this wave of fluctuations. Fortunately, the opponent didn't have much power left, and the brainwave power completely self-destruct, which could only cause part of Jia Yan's armor to be damaged. Jia Yan quickly hid in the subspace, and then looked at the outside world. The leader's head was completely exploded, and it was impossible for him to survive. Alas, it seems that this is also a creature of temperament. Although Jia Yan is an enemy of the other party, he also admires an enemy with this kind of character. But he admires him, but he doesn't have any sympathy. After the battle, Jia Yan flew out of the subspace again. In this battle, the battlefield stretched for hundreds of thousands of kilometers, and the corpses of dead half-star warriors from the disciple regiment were everywhere. The whole starry sky has changed from the bustling flashes of the previous battle to now. Only Jia Yan is standing in the big space, surrounded by the huge corpses of dead monsters. The scene looks quite scary. And further away, there is a large wave of creatures watching the battle. At this time, there were hundreds or even thousands of them, but they were all equally silent. Because they were all so shocked by the scene in front of them that they didn't know what to say. Originally I thought Jia Yan would be defeated, then I thought he could escape, and then I thought he could cause some damage to the remnants of the disciple regiment and escape. As a result, now it seems that everyone was wrong. Jia Yan did not need to escape at all. He actually accomplished it. With a sub-level body, he destroyed a powerful team composed of half-star geniuses, and even in this team, there is another top creature with high talent and half-star level. They can no longer describe such strength. Powerful, terrifyingly powerful. Is this, MOK a sub-level person? Or is he a sub-level person with a sub-level appearance, but inside he is a half-star genius with top-notch talent? One of the spectators couldn't help but ask this question. Ask me, who should I ask? A certain creature on the other side also shook its head with a wry smile. In fact, he was thinking about similar questions. Jia Yan's combat ability is not only as simple as strategy, but also with man-made black hole tactics. His strength is at least a high-level talent and a semi-star level. With such talent and intelligence, no one can describe how strong he is. This guy also has a trick like self-exploding a black hole. Thinking of this, the nearby spectators all looked at each other, and then their hearts jumped for no reason. He is already super strong, but if the black hole explodes again, wouldn't it mean that Jia Yan would be able to run rampant in the genius battlefield? While all the spectators were shocked, Jia Yan was cleaning the battlefield. Because these powerful members of the Disciple Corps were on the run, they took their belongings with them. Jia Yan found a lot of good things from the corpses of several monsters, as well as several unnamed Genius Battlefield Genius UN cards. It seems that this battle is not a loss. Jia Yan's eyes were bright. He realized that firewood, rice, oil, and salt were expensive only after he became a family member. He was very short of money recently, and getting the belongings of these semi-star experts could be regarded as making up for the family's expenses. M.O., Lord M.O.K. While Jia Yan was cleaning, a submissive voice reached his ears. Jia Yan was a little surprised. He looked back and saw a creature flying respectfully from a distance outside the battlefield. He is the leader of the Night Flower Force, and he was also a creature that had a lot of eyes on him before. Now he actually dares to approach him. Jia Yan was a little curious. Sir, congratulations on defeating the remnants of the Disciple Regiment. This group has caused too much influence in our dark area. Your Excellency, you have eliminated harm to the people. We, the Night Flower Force, are also one of the beneficiaries. On behalf of everyone in the Night Flower Force, I people, thank you for your sacrifice in this battle. The leader of the Yehua faction did not dare to look up at Jia Yan when he saw him. This was completely different from before. No matter what he thought before, he would never think that Jia Yan really had the ability to fight him head-on. What he was previously afraid of was Jia Yan's man-made black hole. But it was different now. He watched Jia Yan's entire battle. As the most powerful high-end talent semi-star among the spectators, he can see a lot. The first point is that Jia Yan's combat strength is definitely not as simple as an ordinary second level. But it can be vaguely seen that Jia Yan's strength is still in the sub-level category, which is what surprised him the most. If Jia Yan is still a sub-level existence, then if he is promoted to half-star level. Thinking about it, his heart was beating slightly. What's more, even if the smoke hadn't been promoted, his current strength should definitely not be underestimated. What was even more frightening was that his combat intelligence made a group of half-stars consume their power first, and then flipped. The battle situation was even more impressive when the remnants of the Disciple Regiment, whose strength even the Night Flower Force was faintly feared, were completely wiped out. So now he is here to subdue him and build a better relationship. Sir, you have sacrificed too much in this battle. In order to thank you, I, the Night Flower Force, want to increase the supplies we promised you by 30% from the original level. Please don't refuse. Hearing that the leader of the Night Flower Force was so knowledgeable, Jia Yan suddenly smiled. Okay, thank you so much for your influence. You, the Night Flower Force, have received my friendship from Tingtian Pavilion. You should move around more in the future. Haha. Of course, Jia Yan is happy about the pie in the sky. As for friendship, it's just lip service. Of course, Jia Yan won't be stingy. Of course, it is an honor for our Yehua faction to be able to climb up to Tingtian Pavilion. After chatting with the leader of the Yehua faction, who instantly became more respectful, Jia Yan declined the other party's invitation to be a guest again, and then escaped into the subspace. He is returning to Tingtian Pavilion. This battle is of great significance to Jia Yan. In the subspace, Jia Yan thought a lot. Before, I wasn't very accurate in positioning my real body's strength. Now in this battle, for me, I can position my strength accurately, and I can also find some problems. Jia Yan affirmed and denied himself. For Jia Yan, this battle actually had many different feelings. First of all, he understands that his strength has indeed reached an extremely high level. If he fights head-on, he can compete with the high-level talent of half-star level. Of course, there is still a gap, but at least he will not be killed in one blow. Die. Coupled with the man-made black hole and subspace talents, if you get into a fight, it's hard to predict. A semi-star genius with high talents may be killed by him. It was also unexpected for Jia Yan that this battle resulted in the group annihilating the remnants of the Fu Ming group. If the opponent had not fallen into the trap from the beginning and consumed most of his strength, it would have been almost impossible for him to annihilate them. At a time when the war on my clone's side is getting more and more dangerous, it's a good thing that my real body has confirmed its strength. At least when I eject, I won't be confused about where my strength is. Jia Yan pondered for a long time, then relaxed and swam quickly in the space. And Jia Yan himself can imagine the sensational effect caused by the result of his battle. But he didn't expect that this battle was not only a sensation in the dark area, but also spread to the entire Genius Battle Area Central Star Area through certain channels at an unbelievable speed, and then from the Central Star Area to the entire Genius Battle Area spread and spread. The rumored Genius Battlefield official seemed to be slightly moved. You must know that the Genius Battlefield is a place to cultivate geniuses. All the geniuses in the Genius Battlefield have been officially recorded. But for the Dark Realm, they don't have many ways, and they can't even stop the killing. Suddenly I heard that in the Dark Field, there was actually a person who could fight a team of half-star sub-levels. The official star-level people, first of all, didn't believe it. You must know that the person who did such a thing they would still doubt and confirm if they were a top-level talent or a half-star talent, but if they said it was a second-level talent, that would be a big joke. But before they could deny it, some video data was passed on. After all, there were too many creatures watching the battle at that time, so it was normal for that long battle to be recorded. After seeing the video, and then the Genius Battlefield official, this is how everyone is moved. Such a genius? We actually didn't know about it in advance. Let's quickly find out how it came about. Also, send a star to come in contact with him and protect him personally if necessary. This kind of there is almost certainly a top genius, and maybe he is an extremely powerful one among the top geniuses. There is absolutely no room for error. All the officials of the Genius Battlefield were extremely surprised. You must know that they had a fight with people from the Stellar Academy before and lost. It was because there were fewer geniuses in the current Genius Battlefield. If a top genius appeared, that would be a great joy for the entire Genius Battlefield. When this kind of genius grows to the star level, it is more likely to become the most powerful in the star level. In that case, the Genius Battlefield will have one more backer, and maybe even one more donated financial resource. Originally this is how Genius Battlefield works. At this moment, there were several astral levels who wanted to see the MOK. You must know that this kind of thing is beneficial. There were even several astral levels who had a dispute over who should do this task. Of course, they don't know that Jia Yan is now thinking about how to leave the Genius Battlefield. Otherwise, they might not even compete, but might be more eager to contact Jia Yan. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1052. In the Milky Way, there is a region located in an inconspicuous location. Happy Arts. Novel. This area is hundreds of light years in size. It's either big or small. It's called the Orion Arm. But there is a special feature of this area, that is, there is an almost invisible barrier that protects the entire area of hundreds of light years, making it impossible for almost any living thing to enter or exit. But there is an exception to this barrier, and that is that somewhere outside the barrier, there is a gap. Outside the gap is a small interstellar area called the starlight domain. This is a zone with a radius of dozens of light years, and there are hundreds of star systems in it. Naturally, there are also civilizations and creatures here. Master Jiayan, I never thought that after so many years, I would still be able to return to this place. A turtle-like green creature stood at the edge of the barrier, looking at everything outside, almost bursting into tears. Not far from him, there was a similar figure floating in the air. He is Jiayan's clone. Previously, Jiayan's clone went to the Rulan Empire, and then met the old monster in the palace, that is, the person who was suspected to have reached the venerable level. When Jiayan said that he would take him back to the place of his birth, which is the starlight domain where they are now, the other party agreed directly without any hesitation. You must know that returning to your hometown and returning to your roots is the other person's last dream. He has lived for thousands of years, and his life is running out. Returning to his hometown is his last dream. The process turned out to be smooth. Jiayan directly drove a large Imperial fast battleship and arrived at the edge of the Starlight Domain and the Orion Arm without spending much time. There is only one gap in the entire huge barrier land. Jiayan looked at the gap and ignored the old monster's words. I see, this is what is called a gap. Jiayan looked at the gap in the barrier. In fact, the gap was not big. It was only a few kilometers in scope. It was almost insignificant compared to a barrier that stretched for hundreds of light years. It is impossible for outside creatures to enter through here, because after entering, they will also be subjected to extraordinary pressure and suppression, and they will also have to come out very quickly. Of course, Jiayan also couldn't figure out why the forces in the biochemical star territory didn't attack through this place, so it would be better than a lucky breakthrough from the Kaowo defense line. You too, if you want to pass the customs, come here and register. Just when the two of them were lamenting their homeland and the other was looking at the gap with confusion, a voice reached their ears. Jiayan and the old monster were both dumbfounded. Then he looked around and saw a group of armored creatures flying in front of the two of them. They look like soldiers, but equipped with energy agitation. Each creature looks like it is above the heaven level, and there are even 7 of them at the venerable level. The strength of this team cannot be underestimated. Just 7 venerable level warriors, placed in the Orion Arm, can be compared with the top 10 most powerful civilizations. But their appearance is just that of soldiers. The old monster became honest in an instant. His strength was only suspected to be that of the venerable, but in fact, compared with the venerable, it was still far behind. You need to register? Is this a rule? Jiayan is different. If he were here in person, he wouldn't be able to bear even his eyes. That's right, you creatures who came out of Orion's Arm have stay time regulations, visa documents, etc., otherwise what will happen if you stay illegally in my starlight domain? Among the flying soldiers, the one who seemed to have the highest status was not polite to them at all. Although he saw that Jiayan was also a venerable, he was only slightly surprised. As a neighbor, he understood the status of a venerable within the Orion Arm. Of course, he wasn't afraid of Jiayan. He didn't believe that a mere venerable in Orion's arms could be more powerful than his peers, not to mention there were so many venerables in their team. After hearing his words, Jiayan and the old monster were both stunned, especially the old monster. He almost couldn't recover from his old anger and was about to be swallowed to death. This, sir, I am a creature born in the Starlight Realm. I have just stayed in the Orion Arm for a long time. I am returning to my roots this time. Please forgive me. The old monster was afraid. If he couldn't stay in the starlight domain due to identity issues, then his idea of returning to his roots would be in vain. Let me take a look. The senior soldier seemed to have encountered this problem for the first time. He immediately took out a piece of equipment and aimed it at the old monster's body. Well, there are biological gene fragments from our starlight domain, as well as external energy foundations that are not in Orion's arms. You belong to our starlight domain. You can stay in the starlight domain after you go through the formalities, he said calmly. Jia Yan had no choice but to go with the soldiers to the Starry Sky building not far away. He is powerful, but he can't just fight through this kind of problem. What's more, if the clones want to fight, he may not be able to defeat the combined efforts of these venerables in front of him because of his lack of energy. The civilized address, status, gender, and age within Orion's arms must be filled in. When he came to the office, Jia Yan casually signed his name and status. Of course, he filled it in casually, and presumably the other party would not care about such issues. Well, Jia Yan, okay, now let's put the locator on you. If you are in my starlight domain, sabotage privately or fail to return, your signal will be judged as an illegal stayer by the system. You won't be willing to bear the consequences. The staff gave Jia Yan a small locator, and Jia Yan put it directly into his pocket without any hesitation. This locator can detect the body gene fragments of Jia Yan's clone. If it is far away from the body, or the signal device is broken, people in the starlight domain will know that Jia Yan is illegally staying. Jia Yan will not stay illegally. In this place, Jia Yan had a general understanding of Fan, and knew the strength level and general distribution of forces in the starlight domain. There is a reason why the starlight realm is so worried about the creatures in Orion's arm staying privately. The creatures in the Orion arm can only go to the starlight domain, and the population in the Orion arm is so large that at least there will be a lot of them passing through the starlight domain. If everyone runs here, the starlight domain will explode. Because the cultivation environment within the Orion arm is not as good as the outside world, and the starlight domain has received many cultivation resources and techniques from other places, in this gap in the barrier, there are many nearby civilizations, and there are people who want to cross the border illegally every day. That's why the starlight domain has the previous blocking methods. Only powerful people like Jia Yan can enter directly. It's difficult for other ordinary creatures. Applications and procedures, etc., don't know how long it will take to review. It turns out that it's easy for me to come here. This starlight domain is so big. Jia Yan sneered, then put the obtained documents into his pocket. You can stay in our starlight domain for 3 months. Remember, after this time, we will pursue you. After accepting the explanation from an official creature, Jia Yan and the old monster left the building. Master Jia Yan, don't be angry, this is just a rule. The old monster saw that Jia Yan seemed to be a little bit strange, so he quickly tried to persuade him. Only he understands how powerful this seemingly small guardian god of the earth really is. Before, they found out that the most powerful existence in the starlight domain was only half star level, and the strongest person in this borderland was only at the sub-level. And Lord Jia Yan was destroyed at the Kawo defense line. I have killed many level outside creatures, so if something breaks out here, it will definitely be a big deal. At that time, the adults can go back to the Orion arm directly, but the old man who wants to go home will be miserable. Okay, 3 months, what you have to do now is go to your hometown according to your memory, and then find the diluted blood essence and give it to me. Your mission will be completed. From now on, no matter whether you are retiring in your hometown or whatever, I don't care. Jia Yan shook his head angrily at him. He was unhappy, but not to the point of exploding. Speaking of which, this is also caused by the strong man's self-esteem. If his strength is only the marginal level of the revered clone, his actual real body strength is basically equivalent to a half-star existence, so he is drunk by a group of revered creatures. If you scold me, of course you will be unhappy. Okay, sir, let's go now. I think it's been too long and I need to take a look. The old monster took out his brain and looked at the star map of the entire starlight domain. Sir, I thought about it, my home might be here. The old monster pointed to the northwest corner of the starlight domain. Where is it? I don't know if I can make it in 3 months. Jia Yan saw the area and shook his head helplessly. The northwest corner is completely unrelated to where we are now, and it is a long way to. Fortunately, he didn't care about the so-called 3-month period. After shaking his head, he and the old monster boarded the Imperial Express ship and flew towards that place. On this trip, Jia Yan wanted to dilute the essence and blood as mentioned by the Great Empire. If the effect of this essence and blood is really as powerful as the rumors, Jia Yan's real body will be used as a tonic when he returns here. Moreover, he thought a lot the essence and blood of the ancient predecessors in this great empire might be a great opportunity for him. If his true form really comes back, he will inevitably have to ask for part of it. If he's lucky, the essence and blood might be helpful in his promotion to a star. Of course, this is just an assumption. Now let's look at the effect of diluting blood essence. Sir, I have said before that there are feuding enemies in my old family. Although thousands of years have passed and I don't know if those enemies are still there, the power of that family is huge and they must still exist. If they still exist, if you are here, it will be a bit dangerous for us to go back, so I hope you can be mentally prepared. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1053. The old monster didn't agree with Jia Yan's strength and status in the starlight domain. After all, after he understood the level of strong men in the starlight domain, he always felt that Jia Yan was not very powerful in the starlight domain. Don't worry, if your enemy comes to seek revenge, I will take care of it for you. Jia Yan glanced at him lightly. In fact, he understood the old monster's thoughts very well. It's just that Jia Yan doesn't want to brag about himself or anything. Anyway, the old monster will know when the time comes. The two sides flew quickly on the battleship. The generation gap between Jia Yan and the old monster was so big that they almost didn't speak. According to the progress that Zibala predicted for me, it is estimated that the country of Taya will be able to help me establish the space energy channel by the time I reach the old monster's hometown. Jia Yan's real body secretly transmitted some power to the clone again, and the timing was just right, so the power transmitted this time was pretty good. At least it made his clone no longer a weak venerable borderline, but it has reached the early stability of the venerable. With this strength and the help of the black hole, he can at least fight against an ordinary high-level sub-level, so there won't be much of a problem. Of course, if the opponent is a second-level genius like a genius in the battlefield, whether it is the lowest-level genius or a middle-level genius, it is impossible for the current clone to defeat him. After all, the difference in strength level is too far. Jia Yan didn't think there would be any geniuses in the little starlight realm. Even if there were, they wouldn't be above the average level of genius. So that's it? The reason why the biochemical star territory forces didn't attack the Orion arm from here is because the starlight territory didn't agree, and the two sides almost had a battle. The biochemical star territory forces were afraid that things would get serious and attract other forces to rob them, so they gave up. The idea of using the starlight domain to attack the Orion arm. It seems that although the starlight domain is not very friendly to the Orion arm on the surface, it is actually somewhat protective of it. After reading some information on the starlight domain network, Jia Yan finally understood starlight domain's attitude towards the Orion arm. In fact, after reading a lot of information, he understood that the original native population of the starlight territory was not very large. Over the past hundreds of thousands of years, a large number of Orion arm human beings migrated out, and the current starlight territory was created, so he has deep feelings for the Orion arm. That is also natural. After understanding the true heart of Xing Guanjiao, Jia Yan's dissatisfaction with Xing Guanjia was slightly reduced. The speed of the great empire's warships is worthy of praise, especially the theory of gravitational wave distortion, which makes them even faster. This theory was not long established in the great empire, and the technology was not even available to the Starlight domain, so Jia Yan discovered that the speed of this battleship was not comparable to that of most Starlight domain aircraft. It seems that the Orion arm is not without any advantages. At least it has created a new path in technology and has a strong system. If the Orion arm is given another few 100,000 years, maybe it will find a cultivation path that belongs to the Orion arm indefinite. Jia Yan has his own feelings about the uniqueness of Orion arm, because he also started his cultivation with the information from the Rulan Empire. Although this is not very helpful, it still makes him agree with the cultivation and technology system of Orion arm. Factor. It's just that this system develops too slowly. After hundreds of thousands of years, God knows how far the outside world has reached, so the opening of the Orion arm to the outside world is something that must be done, otherwise Jia Yan himself won't be able to stand it. So what the Orion arm lacks now is a strong person, at least a strong person who can keep the Orion arm, stellar level. Thinking of this, Jia Yan was fascinated. From now on, he is the only person in the entire Orion arm who can reach the star level. If he can reach the stellar level, at least he won't lose easily in a big battle, and the Orion arm will also have the ability to threaten others. In any case, it is a good thing. If he could go one step further, let alone reach the galaxy, that would be too far away. As long as he could reach the mid-level star level, his status would suddenly be high. At least the attacking forces would not dare to act recklessly. That's all, I think too far. Now, I am still just a venerable person. Although my strength has reached the top half-star level with the help of several external sources, I am still far away from the star level. Jia Yan smiled bitterly, feeling that he was thinking too much. In short, he is now working hard to reach the stellar level. As long as you work hard, that's enough. Time flies by. In a few months, Tingtian Pavilion on the real body's side seemed to have reached the peak of its reputation. The entire Tingtian Pavilion has become a prosperous place. One after another, outsiders have come to seek refuge, wanting to join this force that has a top powerhouse. The surrounding forces and strong men all bow to Tingtian Pavilion. Under strength. Either they take the initiative to become a vassal, or they pay annual tribute, which makes Tingtian Pavilion's financial income extremely rich. This was the impact caused by Jia Yan's previous battle with the Yehua forces. A strong man who can fight a group of semi-star level creatures by himself, and even annihilate them all, is almost the most powerful person that people can think of. Even if the top semi-star beings in the genius battlefield take action, it will probably not be more powerful than this. Good. People even think that there are two artificial black holes in Moke. Whether there are only two artificial black holes is something that no one can be sure about. If these two black holes can self-destruct, then their threat level will increase to an incredible level. In short, no force dares to recruit Ruotingtian Pavilion. Those few who have joined Tingtian Pavilion for a short time have almost reached the level where they even disdain to see half-star strong people with medium talents. If they want to see them, they have to meet with high-level talents. Stellar powerhouse. Jia Yan had already paid off the debt he owed Zibala, and he even heard that Zibala's father, Sibala, thought for a long time after knowing that she was working for Moke, and then sent a team. The scientist came over and expressed the desire of Lakiao forces and Tingtian Pavilion to develop a good relationship. You must know that Tingtian Pavilion has gradually become popular. Because the rumors about Moke slowly exploded throughout the Central Star region. A person at a sub-level can actually compete with a team that includes a highly talented and semi-star level being. Such a thing is extremely shocking to the genius creatures in the entire genius battlefield. Not to mention, this second-level talent eventually wiped out the opponent's entire team, which is a myth even to a top-level second-level genius. So MOK became popular, and so did the force he founded, Tingtian Pavilion. Sir, the catapult is almost ready. Just spend some time debugging it. One day, Jia Yan's real body heard a somewhat happy message from 11 Bala. Very well, thank you, Ziba. You're welcome, haha. My dad already agrees with you, and he wants me to deepen our relationship with you. He doesn't even know that you are the genius Jia Yan from the Tianhe force next door. I laughed to death. Zibala's words reminded Jia Yan. At his current level, he is no longer afraid of the Baituan, and at least the two high-end half-star talents possessed by the other party do not dare to touch him. You have reminded me that my strength has reached a bottleneck recently, so let's go back to the Tianhe forces and see. Jia Yan said something to Zibala and others, and then jumped away from Tingtian Pavilion. And what a coincidence, just as Jia Yan left, a terrifying strong man from the genius battlefield official came to the place of Tingtian Pavilion. It was a terrifying creature that measured 2 kilometers in size. His strength reached the stellar level, and when he came to Tingtian Pavilion, although he did not mean to offend, he suppressed all the creatures in the entire starry sky and was almost unable to raise their heads. What? That MOK has gone somewhere else. He is actually the Jia Yan who came to the genius battlefield before? Oh my god, is it the genius of the 251st sector that Longta was optimistic about before? It's actually him. This stellar level being heard many secrets about Jia Yan from the mouths of Zibala and other creatures. Originally, Zibala would not tell others such things casually. It can be seen that the official stellar level seniors now that she's here, she won't hide it. At least in her opinion, this is only good for Jia Yan, not bad. But what she didn't know was that Jia Yan wanted to leave the genius battlefield. If the officials knew about his talent, it would be difficult to leave. Fortunately, the star-level existence learned that Jia Yan was going to the Tianhe force and quickly pursued him. You know, when he understood that MOK was Jia Yan, he felt a sense of crisis. He wanted to introduce Jia Yan personally and persuade him to join the genius battlefield. Especially after knowing that Jia Yan was brought to the central star area for Longta, this idea became even stronger, otherwise the credit might be taken away by Longta. Jia Yan had no idea what happened next. In order to surprise Jia Yan, Zibala did not tell him when communicating with him. In short, the trip was quick, and Jia Yan returned to the Tianhe force. Look, who is back? When Jia Yan used the Tianhe force communication channel to notify everyone in the Tianhe force, Tian Tisu, the foreign affairs elder, was the first to greet him. Following him were familiar elders and senior officials of Tianhe forces. There is also the moderately talented Little Mermaid Xiao who followed Jia Yan and found Shiyuan all the way from the 132-star district to the Tianhe force, and was also in the crowd. All the creatures were happy. You must know that Jia Yan was the treasure of Tianhe forces back then. Unfortunately, he went out to travel before and ended up not returning for many years. Everyone thought he died outside. Everyone is happy to be back now. Hey, Xiao, what's wrong with you? You seem to be injured. When Jia Yan met the mermaid Xiao, he suddenly found that the other person was injured. Could it be that the Tianhe forces are at war with some force? It's not just that. It would be too much to even send a venerable person like Xiao out to fight. Master, no, Xiao almost cried. Tell me what's going on. Jia Yan's face turned cold. Although he didn't have a good relationship with the little mermaid who once looked down on him, he was a friend after all, and he couldn't just sit back and ignore her affairs.